There is a quiet trap hidden inside the idea of success. It looks attractive. It promises happiness. It tells us that if we reach a certain level of money, status, or recognition, everything will finally feel complete. And for a moment, it does. But then something strange happens. The feeling fades. The excitement disappears. And we begin to chase the next achievement, and then the next, and then the next. Without realizing it, we start running without knowing why. Success is not the enemy. The danger begins when success becomes the goal instead of the result. When we chase trophies instead of meaning, we slowly disconnect from who we are. We become busy, but not fulfilled. Productive, but not peaceful. Impressive to others, but empty inside. Purpose works differently. Purpose is not about what you gain, it is about what you give. It is not about how high you climb, it is about why you climb at all. Purpose gives direction to effort. Without it, success becomes a race with no finish line. When people chase success alone, they often sacrifice the things that matter most. Health becomes optional. Relationships become secondary. Integrity becomes negotiable. Time becomes an enemy instead of a gift. They say, I will slow down later. I will care later. I will rest later. But later never comes. And one day they wake up surrounded by achievements but disconnected from meaning. A life driven only by success asks one question: what can I get? A life driven by purpose asks a different question: who can I serve? That shift changes everything. Purpose creates resilience. When things go wrong, success-driven people feel lost. Their identity is tied to outcomes. When they fail, they feel like failures. But purpose-driven people see failure as feedback. They see obstacles as part of the mission. They keep going because their work is connected to something deeper than applause. This is why burnout is so common in a success-obsessed world. People work hard, but they do not feel connected to what they are doing. They measure their worth by numbers instead of values. They chase recognition instead of contribution. And eventually, the body and the mind begin to protest. Purpose does not remove struggle, but it gives struggle meaning. When you know why you are doing something, pain becomes part of growth instead of proof of failure. Chasing success can also distort character. When winning becomes more important than honesty, shortcuts appear. When image becomes more important than truth, masks are worn. People begin to live for approval instead of alignment. They ask, how do I look? Instead of, who am I becoming? This is how trust breaks. This is how leadership collapses. This is how relationships suffer. A leader who chases success uses people as tools. A leader who follows a purpose protects people as partners. One creates fear, the other creates loyalty. Purpose reminds us that people are not objects to be used, but lives to be cared for. And when people feel cared for, they give more than effort. They give commitment. They give creativity. They give heart. Another danger of chasing success is comparison. Success has no internal measurement. It depends on others. Someone is always richer, faster, more famous, more admired, and comparison never ends. Purpose, however, is personal. It does not compete. It aligns. It asks, am I living according to my values? Not, am I ahead of someone else? Comparison creates anxiety. Purpose creates clarity. When your life is guided by success, every setback feels like humiliation. But when your life is guided by purpose, every setback feels like learning. One breaks confidence, the other builds character. Purpose also changes how we define winning. Winning is no longer about being first. It is about being faithful to the mission. It is about consistency, about showing up, about doing the work even when nobody is watching. This is why some of the most successful people still feel lost. They reached the mountaintop, but they brought the wrong map. They climbed with ambition but without direction. And when they arrive, they realize they are standing on the wrong mountain. Purpose is the compass that prevents that mistake. Without purpose, success becomes addictive. You always need more to feel enough. But purpose creates contentment. It says, "What I am doing matters." Even when it is hard, even when it is slow, even when it is unseen. This does not mean purpose rejects success. It means success must serve purpose, not replace it. Money can support purpose. Recognition can amplify purpose. Power can protect purpose. But none of these should become the purpose itself. The world teaches us to chase outcomes. Purpose teaches us to build impact. One asks, "How do I look successful?" The other asks, "How do I make a difference?" When you chase success, fear becomes your driver. Fear of falling behind, fear of losing status, fear of failure. But when you follow purpose, courage becomes your guide. Courage to stand for something. Courage to be patient. Courage to be misunderstood. Purpose also demands responsibility. It requires discipline. It requires values. It requires long-term thinking. Success is often loud and fast. Purpose is quiet and steady. And this is why purpose lasts longer than success. Trends fade, markets change, titles disappear, but meaning remains. At the end of life, people rarely ask, "How much did I achieve?" They ask, "Did my life matter? Did I help someone? Did I live with integrity? Did I become who I was meant to be?" These are not success questions. These are purpose questions. Chasing success without purpose is like building a house without a foundation. It may rise quickly, but it will not last. Purpose is what makes success sustainable. It keeps ambition human. It keeps progress honest. It keeps power responsible. When purpose comes first, success becomes a tool. When success comes first, purpose becomes optional. And this is the danger. Not that success is wrong, but that success alone is never enough. A meaningful life is not built by collecting trophies. It is built by leaving something behind, something that improves lives, something that creates trust, something that makes the world slightly better than it was before. Purpose does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be aligned. It does not ask you to be famous. It asks you to be faithful. It does not ask you to win. It asks you to serve. And when you serve something greater than yourself, success becomes a side effect, not an obsession. This is the first step. Stop asking, "How do I become successful?" Start asking, "Why does my work matter?" Because success answers ego. Purpose answers the soul. And only one of them can carry you through a lifetime.
Purpose does not grow from comfort. It grows from discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It is direction. It is the daily choice to act in alignment with what matters, even when the reward is not immediate. When someone is driven only by success, discipline feels like pressure. When someone is guided by purpose, discipline feels like devotion. Chasing success trains us to expect fast results. Likes, promotions, applause, numbers. But purpose teaches patience. It understands that meaningful work takes time. That impact is built slowly. That character is shaped in quiet moments when no one is watching. Delayed gratification is one of the clearest signs of purpose. It is the ability to say no now for something better later. It is choosing long-term growth over short-term pleasure. It is refusing shortcuts even when they are available. Success-driven thinking asks, "What can I gain quickly?" Purpose-driven thinking asks, "What will last?" This difference shows up clearly in leadership. A leader chasing success will demand results at any cost. They push people harder without caring how they feel. They use fear as motivation. They treat mistakes as threats. In the short term, performance may rise, but trust falls, creativity dies, loyalty disappears. A leader guided by purpose builds people before building profit. They understand that when people feel safe, they give more than effort. They give ideas. They give commitment. They give energy. Such leaders are not focused on being admired. They are focused on being responsible. One kind of leader asks, "How do I look strong?" The other asks, "How do I make others stronger?" This difference defines culture. Purpose also shapes identity. When success becomes identity, self-worth becomes fragile. Every failure feels personal. Every criticism feels dangerous. The person becomes addicted to winning because without winning, they feel invisible. But when purpose becomes identity, the person knows who they are, regardless of outcomes. They are not defined by position or praise. They are defined by values. They know what they stand for. And that stability creates confidence. Identity-based living changes behavior. Instead of asking, "What will make me successful?" the question becomes, "What kind of person do I want to be?" A person of integrity makes honest choices. A person of service helps others grow. A person of courage takes responsibility. Habits grow from identity. When you see yourself as someone with purpose, your actions change naturally. You stop needing constant motivation. You begin living from principle. Examples of this exist everywhere. Think of a teacher who could earn more money elsewhere, but chooses to stay because they believe in shaping lives. Think of a doctor who treats every patient with dignity, not because it increases reputation, but because it aligns with who they are. Think of a leader who protects their team even when it costs them personally. These people are not chasing success, they are expressing purpose. Delayed gratification also appears in personal life. A parent who sacrifices comfort to raise children with values. A student who studies when others are partying. An entrepreneur who builds slowly instead of taking unethical shortcuts. These are not glamorous choices, but they are meaningful ones. Purpose is not loud, it is steady. Another danger of chasing success is that it trains us to measure everything externally. How much did I earn? How many people noticed? How many awards did I win? But purpose measures internally. Did I act with honesty? Did I help someone today? Did I grow as a person? External measurement creates stress. Internal measurement creates peace. Discipline connected to purpose feels different from discipline connected to fear. Fear-based discipline says, "If I fail, I am nothing." Purpose-based discipline says, "If I fall, I will learn." One creates anxiety, the other creates resilience. This is why purpose-driven people survive difficult seasons. When money is low, when progress is slow, when recognition is absent, they continue because their work is connected to something larger than ego. History shows this clearly. The leaders we remember were not obsessed with success. They were devoted to causes. They stood for justice, for dignity, for unity. They endured criticism. They accepted sacrifice. And because of that, their influence outlived their lifetime. Success chases comfort. Purpose accepts discomfort. Purpose also teaches humility. When the mission is bigger than the self, arrogance disappears. There is no need to dominate. There is no need to prove. There is only the need to contribute. This humility strengthens relationships. People trust those who are not using them for personal gain. People follow those who care about something beyond themselves. This is the difference between power and leadership. Power demands obedience. Leadership earns loyalty. When discipline is rooted in purpose, habits become meaningful. Waking up early is no longer about productivity alone. It is about responsibility. Learning is no longer about competition. It is about contribution. Growth is no longer about image. It is about impact. Delayed gratification becomes a form of respect. Respect for the future. Respect for others. Respect for values. Success without purpose creates impatience. Purpose with discipline creates endurance. We also see this in personal struggles. Someone chasing success may hide weakness. Someone guided by purpose admits mistakes. One protects ego, the other protects growth. Purpose gives permission to be human, to fail, to ask for help, to change direction. Success demands perfection. Purpose demands honesty. The world celebrates speed. Purpose requires time. The world celebrates wealth. Purpose requires worth. The world celebrates fame. Purpose requires faith. And this is the great tension of modern life. We are surrounded by messages telling us to win faster, look better, and rise higher. But rarely are we asked why. Without the why, effort becomes empty. Without the why, discipline becomes exhausting. Without the why, identity becomes unstable. Purpose is the anchor that holds discipline steady when storms come. It reminds us that the work matters even when the reward is invisible. This is why the danger is not ambition. The danger is ambition without direction, drive without values, success without soul. When purpose leads, discipline becomes service. When success leads, discipline becomes survival. One builds legacy, the other builds pressure. And every day, each person chooses which voice to follow. The voice that says, be admired. Or the voice that says, be useful. The voice that says, look important. Or the voice that says, do what matters. These choices shape character, and character shapes destiny. Purpose does not remove the desire for success. It transforms it. Success becomes something to share, not something to worship. It becomes something to use, not something to chase. And in that transformation, discipline becomes freedom. Delayed gratification becomes strength. Identity becomes stable. This is the path away from empty achievement and toward meaningful life. In the next part, we will explore what happens when purpose replaces success as the center of life, how it changes relationships, how it shapes legacy, how contribution becomes more powerful than competition.
A life built on success alone eventually begins to feel lonely, not because people disappear, but because relationships become transactional. When achievement becomes the main goal, people slowly turn into tools. Conversations become strategies. Kindness becomes calculation, and trust becomes fragile. Purpose changes how we see others. Instead of asking what they can give us, we ask what we can give them. Purpose transforms connection into responsibility. It reminds us that relationships are not stepping stones, they are destinations. Trust grows when people know they are not being used. It grows when intentions are clear, when words match actions, when care is shown without expectation of reward. A purpose-driven life builds trust naturally because it is rooted in values, not advantage. This is why teams with purpose outperform teams with pressure. When people feel safe, they speak honestly. When they feel respected, they contribute fully. When they feel valued, they stay. Success may create short bursts of performance, but purpose creates endurance. Legacy is never measured in trophies. It is measured in lives touched. Long after goals are forgotten, relationships remain. The true question is not how much did I win, but who did I help become stronger? Contribution gives meaning to effort. It transforms work into service. It transforms struggle into sacrifice. It transforms pain into purpose. A person chasing success asks, what will this bring me? A person guided by purpose asks, who will this help? These questions shape different futures. Daily actions reveal which one we follow. The tone we use when we speak, the patience we show when others fail, the honesty we practice when no one is watching. These small choices determine whether we build trust or break it. Purpose is not dramatic. It is consistent. It appears in how we treat people when there is nothing to gain. It appears in how we behave when no one is keeping score. It appears in the courage to do the right thing even when the easy thing is available. A success-centered life often avoids discomfort. Purpose-centered life walks into it. Difficult conversations are not avoided. They are handled with respect. Mistakes are not hidden. They are learned from. Responsibility is not feared. It is accepted. This creates emotional safety. And emotional safety creates growth. In families, in friendships, in workplaces, in communities. When purpose leads, competition becomes cooperation. Fear becomes curiosity. Blame becomes learning. People stop protecting themselves and start supporting each other. Purpose also changes how we face failure. Failure is no longer proof of inadequacy. It becomes part of the story. It becomes training. It becomes wisdom. A person with purpose does not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" They ask, "What is this teaching me?" This mindset creates resilience, and resilience builds character. Character is the invisible legacy we leave behind. It is what people remember when our titles are gone. It is what remains when our achievements fade. Character says, "This person lived with integrity. This person cared. This person made a difference." The danger of chasing success instead of purpose is not just personal. It is cultural. A society obsessed with winning forgets how to belong. It divides instead of unites. It measures worth by wealth instead of dignity. And when dignity disappears, trust follows. Purpose restores dignity. It says every person matters, not because of what they produce, but because of who they are. This belief changes leadership. It changes education. It changes families. A purpose-driven leader does not ask, "How do I control?" They ask, "How do I protect?" Protection builds loyalty. Loyalty builds unity. Unity builds strength. This is how movements are born, not through ambition, but through belief, not through power, but through service. At the heart of purpose is responsibility. Responsibility to act with care. Responsibility to speak with honesty. Responsibility to use influence wisely. Responsibility to leave things better than we found them. This responsibility is not heavy. It is meaningful. A life chasing success often feels busy but shallow. A life guided by purpose feels demanding but rich. One consumes, the other contributes. Purpose also brings peace. Not because life becomes easy, but because life becomes clear. Clarity removes confusion. It answers the question of why we wake up each day. It gives direction to energy. Without purpose, success becomes noise. With purpose, effort becomes music. The daily practice of purpose is simple, but not easy. Choose truth over convenience. Choose patience over pressure. Choose service over status. Choose values over vanity. These choices do not make headlines, but they build lives. In the end, the danger is not that we fail to succeed. The danger is that we succeed at the wrong thing, that we climb high but stand on empty ground, that we gain the world but lose ourselves. Purpose keeps us human. It reminds us that life is not a race to the top, but a journey of contribution. It is not about being admired, but about being useful. It is not about being remembered for achievements, but for impact. A meaningful life does not ask, "Was I impressive?" It asks, "Was I helpful? Was I honest? Was I kind? Did I live in alignment with what I believe?" These are the questions that remain. When purpose replaces success as the center of life, something powerful happens. We stop chasing approval and start building trust. We stop competing for attention and start creating belonging. We stop surviving and start serving. And in that shift, we find something success alone can never give us: peace, connection, meaning. Success can make you visible. Purpose makes you valuable. Success can make you rich. Purpose makes you whole. Success can impress others. Purpose transforms lives. This is the real choice, not between winning and losing, but between empty achievement and meaningful contribution. Every day offers that choice, in how we work, in how we lead, in how we love, in how we speak, in how we decide. And the future is shaped by which one we choose. A life driven by success may look powerful. A life driven by purpose becomes powerful. Because in the end, people will not remember what you achieved. They will remember how you treated them. They will remember whether you cared, whether you stood for something, whether you made them feel safe and seen. That is the true measure of a life well lived. Not success, but purpose.